Everyone has in common. They all say he is like a child.
Brutally cold weather in the United States killed at least 18.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Comfort Konfor. You're all welcome to our talk show tonight. And with me in the studio, I have the honor to talk to Professor Carlson Anyangwe, who is our Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs. So, good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Comfort. Don't mind the way I look. I'm in cool London.
You look cool. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, like we said before, I'm here with Professor Carlson Anyangwe. It is rather unfortunate. If you saw the poster, we were supposed to be three of us, but for some reason, Dr. Samuel Sako, who is popularly known as Dr. Common Sense, for some reason, he may be making it either later or not at all, but struggle continues because, you know, we have struggles within the struggle, but then we still have to brave it. So without wasting much time, I will go ahead to start asking some questions. We have some things that have been bothering us. There are certain things that like we as Amazonians, we need to know, especially from you officials, you who are representing the government. So I go straight to the point, talking about education. If listening to the interim president's speech on the New Year's Eve, he emphasized that schools are going to reopen on the 8th of January as he promised, or as the interim government promised, for obvious reasons, that thousands of our children are on exile, others are in prisons, the teachers are nowhere to be found. In spite of that, some schools have still gone ahead and they have reopened and they are functioning normally. So what do you have to say about that? Should we go ahead and issue some threats on them, or what do we say? What do you have to say about that, Professor?
No, we are in no business of issuing threats to anybody. We had planned this whole thing meticulously. The school was going to open on the 8th. But that is because we had assumed that for once, the colonial occupier would learn and vacate our territory such that education can be taught to our children. That hasn't happened. What has happened ever since then has been increased militarization, increased killing, the pouring into thousands of troops. Some people are counted by some between 10 to 15,000 troops into our territory. And of recent, we saw them moving armored vehicles and using helicopter gunship to shoot at our people. And under these conditions, when the colonial authority have ordered our people to vacate their territory and go to where they describe as areas of safety, and that can only be a neighboring country, where many villages have been emptied of its population, where many villages have been set on fire and burnt by the invading colonial forces. Under these circumstances, the schools resume on the 8th, and we start implementing the great educational plan we have our people, regret to say, under the circumstances, which are so inauspicious. Schools will not take place. And I do not see any parent with his senses taking the risk, the unwarranted risk of sending their children to school. They should be warned that they are putting their children in harm's way. These people have a track record of killing and murdering, assassinating and raping. Why would you want to take that risk? And it's for that reason that we say, in order to safeguard the interests of our people and our children, they must stay away from schools, because these schools are the primary targets of the invading colonial forces.
Okay, thank you, Professor. You have answered the question so elaborately that anybody listening to you would not have a second question to that, because you have said it all. There is no need to go back to school. We hope that everybody has gotten this. There, for obvious reason, the insecurity and the fact that many other children are not present to be able to go to school, and it's going to be unfair, even like the president said in his speech. Notwithstanding, we still hear the news of GCE being registered, or to the extent that registrations have been pushed to February because of poor attendance and things like that. So I don't know, what do you have to say about this? It looks like a stupid question, but we still, I think that there's something should be said about what do you have to tell parents and students who still want to go ahead and register for the GCE, having not been going to school, having not studied, not been prepared for the GCE, as bad as it was last year, and then they still want to go ahead and do it again this year. What do you have to tell parents and students as well?
Yeah, the colonial authorities will continue to do what they know best, and that is to continue to demonize and give us what some have called Bantu kind of education. They can continue to write a political GCE. It's not going to take them anywhere, and our people must know political GCE, negotiated GCE, GCE which are arranged in advance, and fake figures are published that people are registered, or fake pass rates are published, or pass rates are reduced. These things in the public media and the outside world knows about these things. So this is just being plain stupid. For the colonial authorities, the whole idea is not to give any education. The whole idea is to give a semblance of normalcy and to say they have won the hearts of our people. But no, they haven't. Our people are solidly behind the Southern Cameroons, the ambassador restoration revolution. And these people can play the political game they want to play. It will change no facts on the ground. The facts remain, they are cogent, and the outside world, we have traveled outside, we've seen things, we know what is going on, and people understand what is going on. Political GC, let them continue to organize it. Political results, let them continue to organize it. The parents and these children tomorrow will realize what has happened and will turn against these parents. What do you want? Better thing is keep these children at home until we have a good structured place and the national territory is freed from all being vandalized.
Yeah, thank you very much. Once again, just like we said before, it's all about school. We know how important this is a topic to us, both as parents and one-time students, and as students as well, who are out there really anxiously wanting to go back to the classroom. So what do you propose for them? Because staying at home is equally not an easy task, especially for a young boy or a young girl who has nothing to do, cannot go to school, is idling. Like for the past 13 months, we have been hearing complaints of unwanted teenage pregnancies and abortions and things like that, just because they are not going to school. So what do you propose that they should do that could occupy them? Is there any alternative, something that can keep them busy while they wait for schools to start?
I don't think that's a compelling argument. And to say that all of a sudden, overnight, all the girls are getting pregnant just because they are going to school. I mean, what's a silly argument. I don't think anybody will buy that kind of a story. Where is parental responsibility? So they're suggesting that by sending the children to school, we've never registered pregnancies. Oh no, this isn't, I mean, they should tell us. The people who are advancing this narrative are people who have made up their mind to send the children to school and put them in harm's way. And they are going to get the results of that kind of a thing by exposing children to all of this and by bringing some fake story about all of this and all the children getting pregnant and so on and so forth. So no, what we tell them, and we're telling parents, advising them, keep the children away. There are thousands of children that have been forced out of our national territory by invading forces. There are hundreds of others that are amassed in prisons, as Amnesty International put it, like sardines, all over the foreign country. We know this. So what person, what parent, what children with any conscience would pretend that they are going to go to school and learn under circumstances which are inauspicious, which are not conducive to learning? In any case, what kind of education are we talking about? The same education we revolted against in 2016, which we say was not quality education, the same bastardized kind of education, the same kind of Bantu education. That's the kind of education they're talking about, which children are being educated to go and serve the masters of a foreign country called the Republic of Cameroon. No, that's exaggerating. These children who are having this thing now, the consequences are only going to be seen later on. This is an exercise in futility. Keep the children at home. That is the answer. Let the invaders come and kill them at home, they will see. I will take care of them.
Yeah, given that all of the children, everybody has understood and they see the need to stay at home because they are waiting for the better education. My question was, what do you propose for them to do, like keep themselves beautiful, like alternative education, not necessarily the formal now, because by now everybody should have understood why we shouldn't go to school and hopefully everybody's going to stay at home. What alternative thing do you think can keep them busy? Because the honest truth, as we say, the idle mind is an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So at least something to just what can be an alternative.
If the conditions were minimally stable, if you didn't have these rapist soldiers, these killers in our streets, in our villages, we could have said there is an alternative. Organize out of the formal educational system, a system where we can connect to even give some modicum of education to our children. We can occupy these children by doing a lot of things. For example, being helpful to their parents. And people have suggested even helping their parents even in the farms, going to market with them, in the shops, learning. These are not useless skills. Going to the market to be able to sell along with their parents and learning skills, or to a farm and so on. But like I said, this alternative is just not available because the situation does not permit this kind of thing to happen. In the interest of the colonial authorities that are occupying our territory, for them to see any form of progress being made by our people and by our children. So right now, I don't see any viable alternative which we can say they should do this, which is not going to be disrupted. Because the thing about this thing is, once the creativity and the inventiveness of our people begins to show, you can be very sure they will destroy this. Because our people had opened ITC schools around the place. They had computer schools. These children could have gone there in normal circumstances to learn these extra skills, but they're not able to do that. For the simple reason is that these places have all been destroyed. They are not even allowed even to open these small internet shops around the street corners. They go and destroy them. So I am unable to see what other viable thing at the moment we can offer all of these children. But let me just hasten to add that it is our hope and prayer that this period of agony, this period of trauma for parents and for children will not be unduly prolonged. Of agony, this period of trauma
Thank you so much.
For parents and for children
for your elaborate
will
answer
not
to that question.
be unduly
I hope that the students
of agony.
Parents are listening to us. I think
This
they are making more sense out of the reason
of
that
trauma
should not. Thank you so much
for parents and for children will not be unduly of agony.
Parents are listening to us. I think
This
they are making more
period
sense out of the reason
of
that
trauma.
Thank you before we know it. Another important question here goes to concerning teachers and private and mission schools. We know if everything being normal, we could say that they have been the real sacrificial lambs for this struggle, because for the past about 13 months, they have not been able to go to school, they have not taught, and they've not been paid any salaries. In addition to that, some few mission schools have even been burnt down as a result of the problem out there. So what do you have to tell them?
Yeah, the missions, they have a major revolution playing that role. Recognize the sacrifice. We recognize the sacrifice the mission workers are making because they're being deprived of a salary. We recognize the sacrifice the children who are supposed to have gone to mission schools are making. But this is not our creation. This thing has been imposed on us by an invading foreign force. People who want to occupy our territory have no right to be there in the first place. Who have been in colonial ripping off. That is the situation. And we are saying we must take care of this situation now or forever. We remain slaves. And no self-respecting people will accept slave status. And we are not going to accept slave status, or made it very clear we will not accept. So, because this situation has been imposed on us, we have to fight it, and fight it to the bitter end. And part of that fight is the fight of the churches, the fight of the missions, the fight of all the workers who are making those sacrifices. I think very often it is often overlooked. When we talk about the sacrifices and fighting, people tend to think about somebody fighting and holding a gun or demonstrating outside. These are people in the homeland who are making tremendous sacrifices. If we were to quantify in monetary terms how much money all the mission workers have lost because of this struggle, it's enormous. And because of the loss of that salary, their families also suffer. Because for each family, you can be very sure there are so many dependents in that family. But we keep on asking for patience and praying that this agony is not unduly prolonged, that in due time, we shall overcome and we shall rectify the situation. And we are imagining a situation after this, where all of our people, and I'm not here trying to disclose anything which people don't even know, that people are going to reap the benefits of our freedom and of our liberation. This is something which has happened in many countries. We are not the first and we shall not be the last. Many of our citizens who are in the diaspora know this very well. When they boast and they talk about being America, they don't know how America fought the British for their independence. And they paid a heavy price for that. There was nothing but schooling involved. And everybody hands on deck, fighting their little corners for the greater good. Even in Africa, we have many examples where people fought for their freedom. So we are not the first. We're only appealing for understanding, that our mission should understand, our mission workers should understand, and we're trying as much as possible. Department of Health and Social Services to to see how we can mitigate some of this suffering in some little way. It will not be total mitigation, of course, but little mitigation. And that's why there are a lot of initiatives which that department has adopted and which is implementing. Adopt a teacher, adopt a family, adopt a lawyer, and things like that, and so on and so forth. This is not going to absolutely compensate them, but it will reduce the level of suffering for our people.
Okay, thank you, Professor Carlson. And this takes us to another one of the most sensitive things that is happening to us now. There is this much talked about DOD. I'm talking now about defense. We know our interim government has said it, international law says it, everybody has the right to self-defense and self-determination. And for the past 13 months, the world is our witness that we have been quiet, we have been pushed to the wall, and the only thing we're about to do now is bouncing back, even as the President of the Republic to Cameroon, President Paul Biya, made it public, declared war on us. So there is this much talked about DOD. What is DOD? What is it at all? Does it exist? Is it like a kind of military operating under the interim government? Can you tell us what DOD is? What is it?
No. Every government in the world has a Department of Defense or a Ministry of Defense or a Ministry of Armed Forces. Just like have a Ministry of Police or a Department of Police or a Department of Security. These are normal structures. But that's a political administrative thing. The operational arm of the army itself is a completely different story, which requires a lot of expertise. It requires a lot of funding and a lot of recruitment to be able to develop that kind of skill. We are not there yet. As far as we are concerned, we've left the defense of our territory to our own citizens themselves to defend themselves against the invading forces as best as they can. Until such a time in the future, I don't know when we're able to develop a defense capability to counter the aggression that's unleashed on us. So when you hear about the Department of Defense, you have in every place, any government that is created, sets up a Ministry of Defense. But that is still work in progress. The actual part of the military itself is something else, and that takes a lot of work. It's not something to do that tomorrow, because, you need to have experts, you need to have the trained soldiers, you need to have the equipment, and so on and so forth. We are not there. We're not there yet. It will take a while. But that does not mean that we shy away from any sort of responsibility for we tomorrow to have the necessary people and necessary equipment. But for now, we encourage our citizens all over our territory to set up vigilante groups to defend themselves, defend their families, defend their territory, and defend their land as best as they could. Okay. Most of them have what? Cutlasses and axes and so on. The thing which you've seen, the invading army has gone into people's homes, knives, spoons, foxes, hoes, and so on, and put out in the street and advertise, these are arms that they'll be able to get from Amazonians. Ridiculous. When they shall start seeing arms in the future, maybe another 2 or 3 years, I don't know what they will start saying. But for now, we've not got there yet. Our people are using their bare hands to face these people. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. So apart from that, if I've understood you well, this DOD Defense Department, the Department of Defense, or whatever we call it.
Or a ministry, if you like, yes. Or a ministry, it's a ministry.
Okay.
Yes, a ministry.
Something above vigilante groups, is it like are they vigilante groups, or what exactly are they?
A ministry is an administrative structure, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an administrative structure where you appoint somebody, a director, this, and so on and so forth. But I'm saying that administrative structure is very, very different from having an army. Yeah. So we're trying to have that ministry they can figure out, once we set it up and figure out about our defense and so on and so forth, once we figure out of those things and try to work out and see whether we can raise an army and how we're going to raise that army and equip that army. And that one we've not got there yet. And that's why we depend on our communities, our vigilantes, and our various groups, communities, our civil defense society, forces, civil defense population to take up the defense of their counties, of their villages, of their families, of their population, as best as they can, in any way they can, and as an act of self-defense, because that's an inherent right, even an individual inherent right and a collective right to defend themselves. Okay. Given that we have like international right permits this call it self-defense is an international right. Yeah, am I right? Good, you're a lawyer. Yeah. So, given that we have the right to self-defense, the Amazonian community, both at home and abroad, are like eager to have the zeal to fund these people back at home for this self-defense. Is that something that has to be encouraged, or what do you say about this? I don't. We have said the groups should be able to defend themselves, and we are not going to stand in the way of anybody who is assisting the group to defend themselves. I've said in any way possible. In any way. There is no method which is off the table. I can tell you that. If a community decides that they're going to defend themselves against the aggressors, use whatever means they can, they're perfectly in order to do that. And I challenge anybody to deny that we have a right of self-defense in the face of this aggression. Like you earlier mentioned, the president of a foreign country shamelessly announces war against armless people. But it's a war which is simply officializing, because that war had been declared a year earlier and been ongoing, you know. And I only wish that some of these people would make this declaration, can themselves go there to that war front and lead. But of course, we all know that in their safety in Yaoundé or in hotels in Geneva and hiding there and sending other people's children to get killed. You know, and then when they get killed, they take a flag and wrap over their coffin. That's what they do. They've been doing that. But that is not, we're not fazed by that. We confront them, our people confront them, even with their bare hands. Yeah, news coming from home, pictures and all the information on social media shows that a good number of people have been killed back at home. Many have been injured and others have been maimed and so on. Do you have an idea of approximately how many of our people have been killed, those who have been maimed, and is the interim government doing something like to support those who are in pain now, in injury because of this misfortune? Yes, we have thousands of people who have been either killed, injured, disappeared, or maimed and raped, because rape, of course, is being used by the invading foreign country as an instrument of war. That's what they do. It's amazing that you can have a so-called army, and its first task is to get at women and rape them. You ask, why are they doing that? It's a way is to inflict harm and injury on us. We should feel the pain through what they are doing. So we are saying that on a daily basis, we keep tabs on all persons who have been killed, those who have been disappeared, those who have been maimed, those who have been raped. I may wish to know that we are discovering mass graves where these people shamelessly trying to conceal evidence. They kill civilians, dig up shallow graves and dump the bodies there. But what they don't know, and this is why in fact, I'm so sorry for them. Forensic science nowadays is so advanced that we shall be able to pinpoint those who have been killed and who killed them. They don't know this. See, that technology has been used elsewhere, and we shall use that technology when our country shall be free. And like we've always been saying, all these people shall be brought to justice sooner or later. Right now, we're waiting for the ICC, the International Criminal Court, to respond to our request for warrants to be issued against the president of the foreign country called Cameroon Republic and his principal ministers and army officials. Okay. That is going to happen. The thing about justice, the will of justice, I was just about to say the will of justice turns very slowly, but certainly. No, eventually, we'll get them, eventually. They can run, but they can never hide.
Okay, thank you. So if I get and understand you well, the interim government has requested for the kind of an arrest of the president of La République to Cameroon because of the crime against like human rights, humanity abuses and things like that. Is that what you mean?
Yes, we filed an application in the International Criminal Court requesting for the situation that obtains in our territory to be investigated and warrants a country for criminality and his principal ministers and army officials. That we have filed is an open secret. And they may be basking there because the will of justice turns very, very slowly. But these things will eventually come. Like I'm saying, they can run, they can hide. There's a lot of evidence being gathered now against all those people. There's a lot of work going on now because we're also trying to get travel bans to be imposed on these people. And the assets which are abroad, all the money they've stolen, it's our money. All the oil money they've been stealing for the past 50 years and hiding in foreign accounts, in properties. That is going to happen. So all those guys who are making noise because right now they're under the cover of a criminal government and so on, a reckoning shall come. I always say, if somebody had told Hitler and the Nazis that a time of reckoning shall come, they were doing exactly what these people are doing to us. Sending people, killing them in their thousands to gas chambers and so on and so forth. The Jews appear to have been on their feet. But the Jews rose up. And Nazis are being chased right up to this day. And that's what is going to happen to these people.
Good. So I'm so interested in something that you said. You said some investigations, you have filed a case already against them. And have they already commenced with the investigations, or how soon are they going to start with that?
No, the ICC hasn't informed us that they've started the investigation yet. That's what I mean. When I say the will of justice is slow, but it's going to come around. Because there are a lot of things they want to be very sure about this and that and so on and so forth. They have fillers around, investigation going on. These things do not appear in public. People don't know. When things come, people are then surprised. Oh, this is what was going on? And that's all I'm saying. That investigations that are going on now by different organizations, different bodies, different people, even at an individual level, collecting different kinds of evidence, and this thing is being packaged together. In addition to what we already have, the killings that started way back in January 2016. This is a modern world. We have satellite images of some of these killings taking place. We have satellite images of some of these military people who think they can hide behind some mask. They think they are not seen. Who think they can operate in the night and not seen. Who think they can switch off internet, switch off the light, and commit these monstrosities, and nobody will see them. And I'm saying it's a lie. This is a different world altogether. Technology is very, very advanced. And we do satellite imaging. That's how they were caught when they were torturing people to their own embarrassment. There are many of those kinds of pieces of evidence we have. We're assembling them with their cooperating partners, whole package, which we present to relevant quarters at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. So let's move again from the International Court of Justice back to our Defense Department back at home.
Yes, the International Criminal Court.
Sorry?
Yeah, the International Criminal, because there's a difference. I know people tend to confuse, yes. The International Court of Justice is something else. The ICC, which is the International Criminal Court, is something else. We are talking about the ICC, the International Criminal Court.
The president of our neighboring country is actually a criminal, so he should obviously be right on the
There you go.
So, I still have some few things to know, please. In spite of the fact that some of our villages have been reduced to dust by the forces of La République du Cameroun, the Tembon villages and most of them down there in the main county. In spite of that, the La République and the president and his people, they are expecting our people to come back home. I call it home, even though they will come back and don't have anywhere to stay. What do they mean by that? Does it make it look as if they are giving it a thought to yield to the conditions, to fulfill the conditions that were put forward by our interim government, to fulfill, commencing with indemnity or looking forward to some dialogue? Or what guarantee do they have for our people? What do they seemingly have for calling our people to come back?
Now, this is one of the things where you're going to wonder at this point about their naivety. Here are people they have killed, murdered, maimed, issued an order, which is again international law. Displaced people that should quit their own homeland and move out. Then, after doing that, after killing, after raping, after murdering, after maiming, the next day they turn around and say, "Come back." Come back to do what? So I should kill them more and more. And we know their targets. It's our young men and young women. The young men because they need to kill them, and young women because they want to rape them. We know it. We're not going to give them that chance. It's not going to happen at all. Our people are not so naive, are not so stupid as to offer themselves for that kind of mass killing and mass murder we intend to commit. So our people have advisedly been told not even to think of doing that until we recover our entire territory. Then we'll lay down the conditions, we'll lay down the appropriate system for our people to return to their homes. As for dialogue, who's talking about dialogue? Dialogue for what? Does a person with a gun to his head dialogue? No. And La République du Cameroun is in no position to give any conditions about dialogue at all. They started this whole thing. They declared war. They declared violence. We'll give them the opportunity. They have the opportunity. Let them finish the violence that they began. Let's see. If they thought by bringing armored cars into Manfred, by bringing helicopters and shooting at people and firing at people, killing them, destroying villages, setting villages on fire and so on, if they thought that was going to frighten us, to come back groveling and begging, licking their boots as they hope, it's never going to happen. In 1,000 years, it's not going to happen. They must reconcile themselves to the fact that they have their own land with clearly defined borders, and they must stay there. For shouting loud, why do they want to occupy other people's territory? Do they have more interest in our territory than we, the belongers of that territory? I say no, it is our territory, and we are going to assert our control over that territory. Not them. They should stay in their own territory. So this thing about dialogue, I don't know where it's coming from. People keep on talking about what dialogue means. It sounds to my ear, during the time of apartheid South Africa, People are banding these terms around about dialogue, without anyone saying clearly what the dialogue means and what it stands for, and who is going to dialogue with who. You know, if there has to be any such thing, we have made it very clear, and the president has made it very, very clear, our president. If in the unlikely chance that that were to happen, it can only be between two independent sovereign nations. Because you can have a dependent people dialoguing with a sovereign people. That is not dialogue. That's inviting them to come and capitulate at the negotiation table. And that is not going to happen. We will not accept that. So if that were to happen, underwritten by the big powers, in an acceptable venue out of the territory, that would be as two sovereign independent people. And what we'll be talking is, of course, we'll be clear at that point. They'll have to tell us the consequential issues that we'll have to deal with. The rape of our territory for more than half a century, the plunder of our resources, the destruction of our infrastructure, the destruction of our economic infrastructure, our social situation. All of that, we have to negotiate how we resolve those issues, how they are going to compensate, which they must in any case do, whether they like it or not. Again, this is not an invention. It's part of international law. And that's why to colonize another country. Every colonizing power eventually pays the price of colonization. Look at history. Every colonial power eventually does, at some point or another. And they are not going to be the exception. And they'll pay the price for that colonization.
Okay, thank you very much. And my next question on the list was, we are moving to something different again. This is about unity. We are now talking about this, a kind of an in-house thing. There is this much talked about unity. Our frontline leaders, the other frontline leaders, they want unity. Our interim government wants unity. The rest of the Amazonians, they're longing for unity. But it seems to be really far-fetched amongst us. What is actually, what is the bulwark that is placing itself between our leaders and us that we cannot come together? Because it's actually like retarding us somewhere along the line. What is happening?
Frankly, I don't know what that animal unity is. I don't know it. I don't. Because everybody interprets that the way they want. And the term is being used in an instrumentalist sense. People who are unable, unwilling to get on others, they use that term in order to demonize the other people, to pretend and say, oh, we want unity, the other people don't want unity, and so on. Whereas if people wanted unity, those groups you are mentioning, there's already a functional organization that is going on. There's already a government that has already been established. One would have thought that we get united there, if that's what they mean by unity, coming together and try to work out a common project. But that is not the case. You have one group saying, we know we have superior wisdom. It is us. We've been a government for the past 30, 40 years. Everybody must come and align behind us. You have another group that is saying, oh no, we know everything. We have been in the struggle, although if you challenge them, those credentials sometimes are very faulty. And so therefore, nobody can emerge now and say anything. And I often say, that reasoning doesn't hold water. Because if you're saying that, therefore you're saying even the younger people now should not be involved in this struggle at all. Because people have been there for past 50, 100 years or 1,000 years. That cannot hold. So I don't know this animal. People are talking about unity. Animal. There's a structure which provides a framework for common purpose, for a common agenda. Now, those who are willing and able would join that. Those who are still at the periphery and making noises are unlikely to join it because they have a different agenda. And I'm not worried about that. I've looked at the history of liberations in all African countries. There is not one that has this hypothetical unity people are talking about. We're 100% together and will pursue a common thing. It has never happened. And I don't see it going to happen here. I've always said that those who have an authentic project, they should go ahead and pursue that project. If by all means they succeed and that people buy in, by all means, we have to all be grateful to that. But if they don't have a project, and all they do is maligning other people, demonizing other people, claiming superior intelligence and position, which they have not been able to demonstrate, I don't see how that's going to take us far. So the whole talk about unity and so on, I've never contributed in that debate because I'm just still to find out what that thing means. I have to see the content of that word unity before I can pronounce myself. I heard people say about this in the internet and so on, but when you read some of those things, you know where they're coming from and what they're getting at. And even if when you say them claiming unity, they're as divisive as ever.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if I really understood you well, you mean that most of these people, especially the frontline leaders, as they call themselves, they don't really mean it when they say they want unity. Yeah, I know we have a legitimate leader who is our president or interim president, His Excellency Sisiko Ayuktabe and his government.
Yes.
Have they tried, like, in their own position, pretended that, okay, we know that you mean it, that you want unity, and taking the step to go to them, to these frontliners, to get them, like, come on board and let's talk because we really need to function as one. Like somehow we know maybe it is obvious that they don't mean it, but then to further justify their innocence or their welcoming attitude to their own brothers, have they like taken a step to invite them for dialogue or call for unity in some way? Or the people, the frontliners, have they proposed something before our IG is saying, no, it's not like that, and that is what is still tearing us apart? Or how is it really going?
Now, I'm reliably informed that President Sisiko Julius Ayuktabe has reached out to a wide range of people, inviting them to come and join the government and contribute their own ideas, the ideas that they claim they have, superior ideas, so we can advance this struggle. But I've been told it's met with a stone wall. Even had some videos or some tapes with some very crude, insulting language. These are people who aspire to be leaders. And you just wonder what kind of leadership they're talking about. So I know I've been told about that reaching out. I don't know those whom they've reached out to, because I'm not the president, but I've just been informed that they're reaching out. And if that's been the case, it surprises me that these people are not going to refuse to come and put their superior wisdom on the table, the marketplace of ideas, so that their superior wisdom can prevail. But instead, that, like I said, that is not really the agenda. The agenda actually is subversion. And normally in a human organization structure, nobody accepts subversion, whether from within or from without.
Yeah, that's it, because this unity thing, like this takes us back again to defense. You can see some of these people, like they call them leaders, they're frontline leaders. If not me, can never be this person. They have taken some moves and done some few things that you and I know that seem to like stain our records or like to make us look funny in the eyes of the international community. I don't know, because like when you say we have the DOD on the ground, these people, they're operating somehow, it should be, like you said, was a ministry, should be operating under the interim government. We hear again like the ADC of Ayabacho, we hear about the Tigers, we hear about Ebenezer Kwanga's own army or kind of things like that. Do these people, are they also, do they have representatives on the ground too? Are they doing something as they claim? Or are they just there to raise this dust? And then I don't really know. I just want to know. I think the public really needs to know something too in order to be sure.
Comfort, I don't want to go to specific because I don't even know them. From what, if you see social media, from what you hear the organization you just mentioned is a claim they're doing this or that and so on and so forth. For me, that's the least of my worry, actually. And I've always said, if indeed that's what they're doing and want to liberate the territory, by all means, let them go ahead. I'll be very happy to hear that tomorrow the organization I mentioned have cleared the territory of the invaders. We'll all go to Boya and be happy and drink Mimbo there, you know. But again, the counter argument I've heard is that, no, these are simply propaganda stunts. So you have two positions. One, that there are some people doing something. I'm not a fighter. I don't know. I'm not on the guard on what is going on. Other people saying that that is not true. But I think all of this, Comfort, time will tell. Time will tell. And I think at the moment, what I can say is there is what is going, a sifting that is going on, a sorting out that's going on, a clarification that is going on. The next year, next 2 years, we will know and we'll see who is who. Certain things are happening. Certain masks are falling. People are beginning to see certain things. And that is what history has shown in all movements within the framework of a state. What I've often called, sometimes you have even called fifth colonists. Within, subversion from within. You have people from outside attacking from outside. It will always be. It will never be a smooth ride. But eventually, things get sorted out one way or another. The situation stabilizes. And everybody says, oh, so this is what was happening. So this is what this person stood for. This is what this person was doing, and so on. Again, those things, you can pretend to conceal them now, but you can't conceal them forever and ever, because those things will eventually come out. That's why at the moment, I won't enter into a really big debate talking about who is doing what and whatever thing it is. Whoever is doing what, let them go ahead with doing it. It's like the debate pool, some people engaging in about this relief. Some claiming they are doing this, some claiming they are doing that, and so on. So for me, it is an irrelevant debate. If indeed they are doing it, like one writer said, a tiger doesn't need to show its tigritude. You see, recognize it. Yeah. So when people go around claiming someone, you begin to wonder, maybe this is not really a tiger, actually. Yeah. So time will tell. And I look at the history of different countries in Africa that have had gone through all this kind of thing. We've had different movements, sometimes fighting each other even, sometimes killing each other for years on end. But eventually, there's a sorting out. There's sorting out. Some are going to fall by the wayside. Some will be prevailed over. Some will eventually see the light. The Holy Ghost will eventually come onto them. For some, the scales will fall from their eyes, and they will see. And for me, the important thing is the existing structure should remain focused on the agenda it has set. And once it begins to register success, you see things begin to fall in line, things begin to fall in place. For me, that is what should be happening. If other people are doing other things, by all means, let them go ahead and do it. Or achieve a common goal of freedom. That should be fine for everybody.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, we have just a few minutes left, but I still have one question which I think is pertinent to me and surely maybe to some of our viewers out there. I know that we are not only in the process of building a new nation, but then a democratic one. And the honest truth is that in a movement like this one, in a struggle like this one, we like need money, and this money has to come from the fellow Amazonians, both at home and abroad and wherever they are. And with the division out there and some kind of confusion, at times people don't know exactly where to give money to fund the struggle, the movement. If you were to advise, what would you say? I know you cannot impose on someone to give money here and not there, but then what would you recommend to the general public?
Now you've said it, you can't impose on anybody. I think by now, everyone fairly knows exactly where they want to put their money. I think so. Those who want to give the money to A, they will give the money to A. You will not convince them otherwise. They want to give the money to B, they'll give to B. They want to give the money to C, they'll give to C. And that's what is going to happen. Again, for that one too, I'm not unduly worried. The people will continue to fund their own liberation. And if the sum total of the different groups amount to liberating the country, then that funding all goes to liberating the country. And I think the sad thing would be if this funding is looked upon simply as a way of getting money from people to sustain a lifestyle, to sustain a living for people as a kind of an unemployment benefit for them and so on. That becomes an issue. Without showing that anything that's been delivered, that becomes an issue. But if all of that money to different A, B, C, and D are all are going to do the same thing, that should be fine. I wouldn't worry about that one. Those who want to fund the IG, for example, will fund it. You will not convince them to fund some other person. Those who want to fund the, I don't know, A, B, C, they will fund those ones. And I think there's nothing we can do about that. We just have to leave it. You can't force every single ambassador to say, it must toe this particular line. Someone begin to tell you about the right of choice, the democracy, whatever. I've heard that song about democracy, even though they've not convinced me that the claim to democracy and the claim for accountability, something they will not even do within their own family themselves, as something they are demanding of some other person, and so on, especially in the kind of situation which we have right now. We have a government that's in exile, a government facing the triple challenges of occupation, a war officially declared by the enemy, a refugee situation. I mean, that's a huge challenge. For even a government that is stable in a nation, that's a huge challenge. And here we are talking about an interim government that's barely 1 month. And people are behaving as if that thing has been here for the past 10 years and asking for what they call accountability, whatever that might mean about accountability, or the democratic right to denounce, to criticize, to abuse, to insult. Let's think about the right to insult others, the right to defame others, the right to be indisciplined, the right not to respect rules, and so on. The same people who are talking about accountability, no respect, are the same people who go out. They can't even be disciplined enough to be disciplined and show some minimal respect for some other people. For me, it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing. Disqualifies many of these people for ever making any such statement. The day we get settled in Boya, we settle with the government. By all means, we shall ask for accountability for every single taxpayer's money. That should be accounted for. Who want to go and stand in the street corner in mile 17 there and get other lungs and shout at democracy there and oppose whatever they want to oppose? That should be the right, the democratic right to do that. But they will be doing that within a particular context where we have even the police force that will make sure that much as you're exercising your own right, you don't step on the rights of some other person. Because that's the balance you have in this right thing. But people just talk about right as if it's a one-way traffic. No, it's never. Yeah, right stop where some other person's own right begins. Sadly, people don't even know about that. So for me, that is my stand on this whole issue about people contributing money to whichever group. They are free. We cannot impose on them whom to give money to, whom we cannot give money to. That is their right to give money where they want to give.
Good. Thank you very much, Professor Carlson Anyangwe. It was nice having you with me tonight, and thank you. I've learned a lot, and I hope that fellow Amazonians would have picked one or two things too from what you have said, because you've made very elaborate explanations of everything. And once again,
I hope so, Comfort. I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Maybe I was too elaborate, perhaps, and so on. They would excuse me. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mm-hmm.